So now in this session, friends, we are going to cover which are the different valuation approaches and the methods for valuation. At the outset, let me tell you that doesn't really matter whether we are doing valuation for tangible asset or intangible asset. The methods and the approaches that we use are more or less going to be same for all the assets, tangible as well as intangible assets. What are the approaches? Let's look at them. First is income approach. And what is an income approach? When the valuation is based on the income, that is income approach. Market approach, when the valuation is based on the market information, that is market approach. When the method of valuation is based on or valuation is based on assets, then it is asset approach. And by the way, remember whether asset approach or the cost approach, now these are two different names for the same approach, so you should never get confused as to what I be talking about. Let's look at the different methods. So we look at the different methods. Number one is the income capitalization method. What it is very simple. So what you do under the income capitalization method, you find out the income of the company for last 3, 4, 5 years and then average it, average the income, normalize the income. And when I say normalize the income, now what does it mean? It simply means that remove the non-recurring or exceptional item of expenses or income from the total income so as to arrive the normalized income. And now capitalize this normalized income with the cost of capital of that business or that company, and that will give you value based on the income capitalization method. The second method under the income approach is discounted cash flow. Please understand, discounted cash flow method means what? It basically means that you find out the future cash flows that the business will be generating and discount those future cash flows so as to convert them in terms of present value. Aggregate of all these future cash flows put together is the intrinsic value, and that is your discounted cash flow method. Market approach, under the market approach you have a comparable company method. So that means what? That means the company that you are trying to value, what you also do, you try and find out any other company which can be compared with this company and which has undergone valuation in the recent past. Use the valuation of a comparable company to also do the valuation of your company based on certain multiples. Those multiples can be linked with the financial KPIs, or those multiples can be linked with the operational KPIs. Comparable transaction method. How do you do the valuation using the comparable transaction method? So you try and find out any transaction which has happened in the recent past of a similar kind of asset that you are trying to value, and use the valuation of a similar kind of asset which has been valued in the recent past to also find out the value of the asset that you are trying to value. So that's your comparable transaction method. Under the asset approach or the cost approach, one is book value method. So book value method, of course, is very simple. Book value method, how do you do the valuation based on the book value method? You do the valuation based on the book value method by picking up the numbers of the assets and the liabilities, different assets and the liabilities as given in the balance sheet, and that will give you your book value based on book value method, valuation of a company based on book value method. Then you have adjusted book value method. How do you find out the valuation using the adjusted book value method? There is a slight difference between the book value method and the adjusted book value method. Meaning what? Meaning when you're trying to do the valuation using the adjusted book value method, then you don't pick up the figures from the balance sheet as they are. You make adjustment into those figures. Say for example, in the balance sheet of your company, it is possible that you may have an asset, let's say land, and that land in the that land may be shown at that land may be shown in the balance sheet, let's say for example at 1 crore, and you purchased this land 10 years back. Today that land may be worth 20 crore. So when you are doing valuation using the adjusted book value, you will not take the value of the land for the purpose of valuation as 1 crore. You will take the value of that land as 1 crore, 10 crore, that is the current value of that asset, and that's your adjusted book value method. Replacement method, very simple. The asset, whatever condition it is in, if it is to be replaced in that condition, how much will that asset cost? That is your replacement method. Finally, under the cost approach, you have liquidation value method. And how do you find out the liquidation value method? Is of course very simple. It means this company is going to be closed down. This company is going in for liquidation. So when this company goes in for liquidation, what will be the money that would be realized from the sale of the assets, minus the liabilities that will need to be paid of that company, minus the expenses that you would incur in completing this process of liquidation of the assets and the liabilities. What remains in the bottom is the liquidation value method. So now remember, you also have something which is known as IndAS-113. Now what is IndAS-113? IndAS-113 is Indian Accounting Standards 113, and this one Indian Accounting Standards 113 is about fair value measurement. Please remember, in all over the world today, what you have you have a new global accounting language, and that global accounting language is known as IFRS, International Financial Reporting Standards. In India, what we have done, we have not adopted IFRS, rather we have adapted IFRS in India, and we call them as Indian Accounting Standards. So for every IFRS in International Financial Reporting Standards, we have a corresponding Indian Accounting Standards. We call it as IndAS. So there is an IndAS called 113, which is on fair value measurement. Please remember, there is a new global accounting language, and that global accounting language is known as IFRS. Under the IFRS, unlike in the past where the focus was on the historical accounting, under the IFRS the focus is on fair value accounting. So IndAS 113 talks about fair value measurement, and therefore when you are doing the valuation of a company, IndAS 113 prescribes that first you must use label 1 input. And what is the meaning of label 1 input? The meaning of label 1 input is that in case if the asset that you're trying to value is listed on some exchange or the other, then you must pick up the quoted price of that asset listed on the exchange as the basis for the purpose of valuation, and that is your label 1 input. Then what you have? Then you have label 2 input. So remember, the quoted price is your label 1 input, and then you have label 2 input. Label 2 input would mean that in case if a company is not, if the asset or the company is not listed on an exchange, how do you do the valuation? Because the quoted price is not available. So what you will do, you will use the label 2 input. And what is the meaning of label 2 input? Meaning of label 2 input is using a comparable method. So what you will do, if you are trying to do valuation of a company which is not listed on an exchange, then you will try and find out if there is any company which is similar in nature and type as the company that you are trying to value, and if this if there is a company which is comparable and listed on the exchanges, then the quoted price of a comparable company which is listed on an exchange will form the basis for valuation of this company that you are trying to value, which is not listed on an exchange. So that's your label 2 input. That means using observable data. Using observable data is your label input. That means something which is readily available in the market and you can use it for the purpose of doing the valuation. That's your label 2 input. And then what you have, then you have label 3 input. So what is label 3 input? Label 3 input will mean that means there is no quoted price available, there are no observable data available, that is label 2 input is also not available, but you still have to do the evaluation of a company. Then how do you do the evaluation? So you will do the evaluation by using label 3 input. And what is label 3 input? So discounted cash flow method, remember, is nothing but label 3 इनपुट. दैट मीन्स व्हाट? दैट मीन्स जिस कंपनी को आप वैल्यू करना चाह रहे हैं उसके बारे में आपके पास में बहुत ज़्यादा इन्फॉर्मेशन अवेलेबल नहीं है, लेकिन आपको उसका वैल्यूएशन तो करना है और लेवल 1 का इनपुट नहीं है, लेवल 2 इनपुट इज ऑल्सो नॉट अवेलेबल. देन यू ट्राई एंड create information by yourself, and that means you prepare the projected future cash flow and discount those future cash flows by the cost of capital of that company, and there this is how you will find out the valuation. And that's your IndAS-113 label input, level 1 input, level 2 input and level 3 input. अब सवाल ये है कि ये जो तीन अप्रोचेज हैं वैल्यूएशन की, इनकम अप्रोच है, मार्केट अप्रोच है, एसेट अप्रोच है, ये तीनों अप्रोचेज में से सबसे ज़्यादा रिलायबल, डिपेंडेबल कौन सी अप्रोच है? सो इफ़ यू आस्क मी, द इनकम अप्रोच is the most fundamental, dependable and reliable approach for the purpose of valuation of any entity. तो जब आपको किसी भी कंपनी का वैल्यूएशन करना है तो आपको याद रखना है कि सबसे ज़्यादा फंडामेंटल जो अप्रोच है वो है आपकी इनकम अप्रोच, एंड विद इन द इनकम अप्रोच डिस्काउंटेड कैश फ्लो मेथड. हमने रिसेंट पास्ट में देखा कि बहुत सारी कंपनीज जो कि आईपीओज लेके आई और ये बहुत सारी कंपनियों के आईपीओ बहुत बड़े बड़े प्राइसेस पे आए, लेकिन आज की तारीख में वो सारी कंपनियों की जो करंट मार्केट प्राइस है वो बहुत लो है. सो फॉर एग्जांपल पेटीएम एक एग्जांपल है. पेटीएम का पब्लिक इश्यू हुआ 2150 के प्राइस के ऊपर और आज की तारीख में वो शेयर करीब 700 के आसपास है. सो हाउ इज़ दैट अ कंपनी जिसका कि वैल्यूएशन 2150 था और वो 3-4 महीने के अंदर वो कंपनी की प्राइस 700 रुपये पर आ गई, इट इज़ कम डाउन टू 700 रुपीज़. व्हाट मस्ट बी द रीज़न फॉर सच अ डिबेकल in the valuation of a company? And reason, of course, remember that valuation of a company like Paytm or Zomato, if they are not done based on the discounted cash flow, then such kind of debacle are very much common to happen. And so therefore, whenever you are doing the evaluation, always use discounted cash flow. Then you have the second math approach, and that is your market approach. Market approach is also referred as level 2 input as per the IndAS-113, which is on fair value measurement. Now, as far as the level 2 input is concerned, or as far as the market approach is concerned, उस पर आप कितना भरोसा कर सकते हैं, कितना डिपेंड कर सकते हैं, कितना उसको रिलाई कर सकते हैं. तो मेरा ऐसा मानना है कि कोटेड प्राइस ओके, बट शुड बी क्रॉस चेक विद डिस्काउंटेड कैश फ्लो मेथड. सो व्यू कोटेड प्राइस विद प्रोफेशनल स्केप्टिसिज्म. सो एक कंपनी की कोटेड प्राइस जो है, अगर आपको कोई बड़ा कॉर्पोरेट डिसीजन उस कंपनी के बारे में लेना है तो मेरा ऐसा मानना है कि आपको वो जो कोटेड प्राइस है, डोंट टेक दैट कोटेड प्राइस ऑन द फेस वैल्यू, क्रॉस चेक दैट वैल्यूएशन और दैट प्राइस बेस्ड ऑन द डिस्काउंटेड कैश फ्लो, कि ये जो कोटेड प्राइस है वो डिस्काउंटेड कैश फ्लो से सपोर्ट होती है कि नहीं होती है. तो अगर कोटेड प्राइस डिस्काउंटेड कैश फ्लो मेथड से सपोर्ट नहीं होती है तो मेरा ऐसा मानना है कि आप वैल्यूएशन के मामले में कुछ गड़बड़ कर सकते हैं या फिर आप रॉन्ग डिसीजन ले सकते हैं. तो कोटेड प्राइस ठीक है, लेकिन लेट इट ऑलवेज बी सपोर्टेड बाय डिस्काउंटेड कैश फ्लो मेथड. And the third approach your discounted, is your asset approach or the cost approach. Now of course the cost approach or the asset approach is good mostly in cases of liquidation, and it indicates the downside value. Obviously asset approach can only be used when the valuation premise is liquidation. Asset approach cannot be used for the purpose of valuation when the premise is going concern. So एक going concern का valuation आप asset approach से नहीं कर सकते हैं. asset approach को यूज करके आप उसी कंपनी का या उसी एसेट का वैल्यूएशन कर सकते हैं जो कि कंपनी बंद होने वाली है या फिर जो कंपनी लिक्विडेशन मोड में है. अब प्लीज रिमेंबर ऑल दीज अप्रोचेज एंड दी मेथड्स जो हमने भी डिस्कस किए. नाउ ऑल दीज अप्रोचेज एंड मेथड्स ओनली गिव अस रेफरेंस पॉइंट एंड नॉट द प्राइस. तो भूल के भी मत सोचिए कि इनकम अप्रोच है, मार्केट अप्रोच है, एसेट अप्रोच है, इनकम कैपिटलाइजेशन मेथड है या डिस्काउंटेड कैश फ्लो मेथड अप्रोच है या मार्क कंपेरेबल अप्रोच है. तो ये आपको प्राइस नहीं देते हैं. दे डोंट गिव यू ए प्राइस, दे ओनली गिव यू अ रेफरेंस पॉइंट, एंड बेस्ड ऑन दैट रेफरेंस पॉइंट द बायर एंड द सेलर विल take a decision and come to a conclusion and come to an agreement as to at what price the transaction should be done. So remember, as a valuation professional, arriving at the fair value by whichever method or approach got to be our main driver. So बहुत सारे कई बार लोग ये सवाल पूछते हैं कि एक वैल्यूएशन का असाइनमेंट मुझे मिला है तो मुझे कौन सी अप्रोच यूज़ करनी चाहिए या कौन सा मेथड यूज़ करना चाहिए. तो देखिए वो सवाल ही नहीं है कि ऐसा कोई फॉर्मूला नहीं है कि ये केस में ये वाला मेथड यूज़ करो, ये वाले केस में ये वाली अप्रोच यूज़ करो. ऐसा कोई सेट फॉर्मेट या सेट ऑफ रूल्स नहीं है. आपको क्या याद रखना है? आपको याद रखना है कि वैल्यूएशन का पर्पज़ क्या है और वैल्यूएशन की प्रीमाइस क्या है. Based on that, you will take a decision as to which method to use or which approach to use. Let me also share with you some more methods of valuation. So under the income approach, you will have initial investment, recent round of funding. So कई बार जब आप वैल्यूएशन कर रहे हैं, so you may be doing the valuation for a startup. तो अगर आपको स्टार्टअप का वैल्यूएशन करना है तो याद रखिए स्टार्टअप के केस में क्या प्रॉब्लम होती है. स्टार्टअप के केस में प्रॉब्लम ये होती है कि उसके बारे में बहुत कुछ इन्फॉर्मेशन अवेलेबल नहीं होती है. तो अगर बहुत कुछ इन्फॉर्मेशन अवेलेबल नहीं है, हाउ डू यू डू द वैल्यूएशन इन केस ऑफ ए स्टार्टअप. सो वन इज इनिशियल इन्वेस्टमेंट राउंड ऑफ फंडिंग. तो पहले तो आप देखिए कि पिछले वाला जो वैल्यूएशन राउंड हुआ है, फंडिंग का राउंड हुआ है, वो किस वैल्यूएशन पे हुआ है. सो दैट बिकम्स योर स्टार्टिंग पॉइंट. और वो जिस पॉइंट पे वो वैल्यूएशन हुआ है उसके बाद में स्टार्टअप ने क्या प्रोग्रेस करी है, कितनी प्रोग्रेस करी है, और वो जो प्रोग्रेस की है उस प्रोग्रेस का क्वांटिफिकेशन करके आप जो पहले वाली प्राइस है उसमें ऐड करेंगे. एंड दिस इज हाउ यू विल फाइंड आउट वैल्यूएशन ऑफ स्टार्टअप. उसमें भी दो मेथड्स हैं. वन इज नॉन एज पोरी. पोरी इज प्राइस ऑफ रीसेंट इन्वेस्टमेंट, यानी कि पोरी यानी कि प्राइस ऑफ रीसेंट इन्वेस्टमेंट, यानी कि रिसेंटली जो इन्वेस्टमेंट हुआ है वो किस प्राइस पे हुआ है. दैट इज व्हाट यू विल लुक एट. एंड सेकंड इज प्राइस ऑफ रीसेंट transaction. So what is the price of recent transaction? That is PORT, port. That means in case if this company has done any valuation in the recent past, तो वो कोई ट्रांजैक्शन किया है रिसेंट पास्ट में, तो वो ट्रांजैक्शन किस प्राइस पर किया गया है, दैट बिकम्स द वैल्यूएशन, दैट बिकम्स द मेथड ऑफ वैल्यूएशन. Under the market approach, remember we discussed there is something known as comparable company method. There is something called as comparable transaction method. Now, how do you do the valuation using the comparable company method or comparable transaction method? For that, what do? You use multiples. What do? You use multiples. Meaning what? Meaning you can use two kinds of multiples. So what are those two kinds of multiples? One is you can use financial multiples. Meaning what? You can use EBITDA as a multiple. You can use EBIT as a multiple. You can use EAT as a multiple. You can use sales also as a multiple. So that is, you can use the financial KPIs as multiples for the purpose of valuation using the comparable method or comparable transaction method. Or you can also use the operational KPIs. So how will you do the evaluation using the operational KPIs? So say for example you are doing the evaluation of a hotel. So how do you do the valuation of a hotel? So you will try and find out based on the comparable method what is the value per room in case of a hotel of that hotel company, or in case if you are trying to find out valuation of a cement company, so what is the value of a comparable company in terms of per ton capacity of cement, or in case if you are doing valuation of power, likewise you can also use the per unit value of that company. So this is how you can use the multiples in case of comparable method. You can also use price per bed in case of a hospital, or you can use price per subscriber in case of a telecom company. All said and done, remember you can of course use the market approach, but always remember, let your market approach valuation be always supported by valuation based on the discounted cash flow method, so as to ensure that you don't take a wrong decision as far as the valuation is concerned. Under the income approach, I think we have already discussed the income capitalization method and the discounted cash flow method. ये दोनों में फर्क क्या है? Please pay attention. दोनों में फर्क बहुत simple है. Under the income capitalization method, what you do, you use the past income, you use the past cash flows under the income capitalization method. Under the discounted cash flow method, what you do, you use the future income or the future cash flows. That is the only difference in the income capitalization method or discounted cash flow method. Otherwise, the rest of the things are all same. Even the cost of capital that you will use for the purpose of capitalizing the income in case of the income capitalization method, or the cost of capital that you will use for discounting the future cash flows is also going to be same in case of the same company. And so these are the methods that you have under the income approach that we have discussed. So now the question is why to use free cash flow for valuation under the discounted cash flow, and this is something very, very critical and you must understand. Why do we use the free cash flow when we are doing the valuation? Why do we use the free cash flow when we are doing the valuation? We use the free cash flows for doing the valuation. That is because what is value? Value is something that you are getting out from an asset. So what you are getting from an asset, is the cash, right? So free cash flow, that is the reason why you use the free cash flow for the purpose of doing valuation of any company. And that is what we should remember. So friends, these are all the valuation approaches and the methods available for the purpose of valuation or different kind of assets and liabilities. And what we have also covered in this video is the hierarchy as per IndAS-113, which is on valuation, which is on fair value measurement. So thank you so much, and we will meet again on another topic sometime in future. Thank you.